Today I'd like to welcome my good friend Mark Elliott to the Get Scouted show. Mark is the founder of Encourage Coaching. Its purpose is to build personal confidence, happiness and resilience. Our conversation today will cover the importance of building resilience in young people and how as parents you can support the process. Welcome Mark, welcome to the Get Scouted show.
Hello, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us on.
So this afternoon, I'd like to cover three areas with you if I could. And the first one I'm really interested and really excited to hear about is your journey. So your personal journey and why you started Encourage Coaching. And I'm particularly interested as your experiences as a footballer. So if you could share those with us first, that'd be amazing.
Brilliant. Yeah, so I was like most Geordies and lived for football and school kind of got in the way. And I had the privilege of playing at Wallsend Boys Club for probably 7 to 8 years. And I played with some great players around me. 1 year younger than me was Michael Carrick. And from there, like most people in my year, we got scouted, we went away on trials, and I was very fortunate to have trials for 16 Premiership and First Division clubs. Played for town, played for county, won the County Youth Cup, which was the first time in 40 years that my county had won that. And in terms of trials, number of great clubs, the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, West Ham, Sunderland, as much as it pains us to say, and Sheffield United. I had some great times at Sheffield United with the likes of Lee Morris, and in Norwich with the likes of Rob Green and Craig Bellamy was a year older than me. In Arsenal, believe it or not, I'll quickly tell a funny story. In Arsenal, I was there with Chris Lumsden, who went on to play for Sunderland and Barnsley. Yeah. And Michael Owen, believe it or not, was on trial at Arsenal. And I'll never forget two things, super quick, to make people laugh. Is at Arsenal, I got brought down for a penalty. So I was on trial against Crystal Palace, put the ball down, and I thought, I can't believe this. And I tell me, Mum and Dad, I've scored a goal for Arsenal. And this guy says, not you, mate, not you. Michael takes it. I thought, who's this, Michael? Anyway, this young lad, Michael Owen, steps up, misses the penalty. About 3 minutes later, he put this ball in from about 25 yards, and I'm sure the game stood still as everyone just watched it go in the top corner. And me and Lummy jumped on him saying, you are absolutely brilliant. A couple of minutes before the end, we'd used all our substitutes. And this is where humility is important. This old guy came on and he said, I'll pick up the guy at the back post. I thought it was somebody's parent. So I says, look, mate, we're all right. We're 4-1 up. Don't worry. I'll mark both of them. You enjoy your son. He says, my son's not playing. I'm Pat Rice and I've played 571 times for Arsenal. I says, no bother, Pat. You have him. I'll have the smaller one. So, yeah, I had a really good time in football. Didn't make it. Top and bottom was I wasn't good enough by a long way. And also a lot of gremlins came into my head because at that time there wasn't an awful lot of coaching in terms of what you do before the game and what you do after the game, and things like, you know, losing a lot of weight at 14 and trying to fit the mold, which the intention was pure to get me to the best place, but all of those things put pressure on you when you're just wanting to be, you know, the best footballer in your school, and suddenly football became a business as opposed to it was a kickabout with my mates, recording everything I ever done, including PE. However, the balance side to that was that confidence went through the roof, belief in myself went through the roof, communication skills were an awfully lot better and more advanced than people in my school, purely because the stakes were higher at what I was doing, and therefore the things I'd learned became second nature. and certainly being shy and reserved was certainly a thing of the past when you're involved in more of the bright lights. So great experience.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have changed it for the world, but definitely reflected and took some positive and some slightly negative things away from it that I certainly want to come back and help as many people as I can succeed for the right reasons going forward. I guess if I build on that, Simon, just a little bit about my business. So I had 20 years in the corporate world, working at middle management and senior management. And obviously that's where our paths crossed. And I had the chance to work with some unbelievable coaches such as Steve Radcliffe and Dr. Steve Bull. And a lot of the time you would appear winning on the outside, but losing on the inside. And I really worked hard at managing anxiety levels, such as working out that it was better to be vulnerable than to fake it. And those vulnerabilities could be having a bad day and talking to yourself about coming in the next day, or it could be as simple as living 125 nights of the year in a hotel. And as I used to say, you're only as good as your next hotel. And many of those times I sat on the edge of the bed thinking, what the hell have I done to deserve this room tonight? But after 20 years of working in the corporate world, I felt as I had something to give. And unbeknown to me, the books just over my shoulder were books that I'd studied for 20 years. And in no way do I preach this to anyone, but I got involved in Buddhism when I was 18 and learned an awful lot. And blending the two together of the Buddhist philosophy and the corporate background has enabled me to have quite a unique approach of aiming at the best of times to have two of these and one of them, and help people gain clarity, and our mission being that we want to help bring an end to anxiety in the world and grow people's confidence, happiness and resilience, which I've been very fortunate enough to work with a number of large retailers and a number of people in the public eye. So hopefully I can get my word out to as many people as possible, one being today, and help as many people as possible move forward and have as much peace of mind as possible to get on with the day in front of them.
So you're happy to touch on some of the people that you've worked on in the public eye, because I know you've worked with some quite famous people.
Yes, I've had the fortune of working with some people from the likes of I'm a Celebrity, Geordie Shore, Netflix, #1 program last year for reality TV was Too Hot to Handle. So really fortunate enough to have worked with the likes of Chloe Ferry, Bethan Kershaw, Nicole O'Brien and Chloe Veach, and also some people within TV, such as a girl called Louise Mackay, who is involved in Bellator, one of their lead ring girls. So it's been really interesting to be a daft lad from Newcastle, trying to give the best help I can, and then all of a sudden seeing these people in the public eye, and it's just brilliant to see them being the real self and expressing themselves as opposed to proving themselves. So it's been fantastic to be involved in the journey, and I get so much energy from it. It's really enjoyable.
Thank you, Matt. That's fantastic. So I guess my next question is, what would you say is positive resilience, and why do you feel it's important in young people?
It's a great question. I guess where the two words positive resilience came from was a lot of reflection and thinking, if I could get what I do down to two words, what would it be? So far greater than what I do, I think the two words complement each other brilliantly. So first of all, positive is seeing the future that you want. So whether you're 12-year-old, you've had a good career up to this point or haven't, and that's fine, because I went on to all these trials, but I was hopeless till I was 12, and then I suddenly had a great 18 months. Seeing the future that you want, and then asking yourself some really positive questions, such as, well, what is stopping me? Because a lot of the time it is ourselves that stop us getting to where we want to get to. What's missing? So it might be, I'm a good footballer, but I'm not good in the air. Okay, so we have to work on that strength. I would always recommend you working on your assets. If you're right-footed, become the best right-footer in the world. But put a little bit of time into your left foot so it comes up to an acceptable level. And then I would ask myself, what's it going to take and what's the steps? So having said in the positive context, what's the future I want? What is blocking me? And what have I got to do to get over it? That's very much where I see the positive side. And then the resilient side is around, it's a long journey. You know, I was told it was great advice going into a tournament called the Milk Cup in Ireland, which some of your viewers may have heard of. It's a tournament a number of professional clubs attend from all over the world. The long game is, if you make a mistake, don't scream. You know, we're only days after Alex Arnold made a couple of mistakes, and he's the best right fullback in the world. But you don't see him going like this and over-exaggerating, because that starts to bring doubt in his ability. He just shakes it off. So it's a long game. It's a long game of joining the dots is where resilience comes in. And the fact there's going to be an awful lot of knockbacks, and toughness is something that yourself and your parents can certainly work together with, because there's many forms of toughness, from critical moment toughness, such as last minute of the game. Why are so many goals given away in the last minute? And, you know, if you've beaten, then how do you pick yourself up to go again? And when I talk about the long term, there's also endurance toughness, the difference between running a sprint and a marathon. You've got to be ready to do it for the long term. And the final type of resilience is belief, and believing in yourself. The biggest bit of advice I was ever given in the corporate world was, if you stop believing in yourself, you're finished. So you've always got to believe in yourself. You know, as far as Ibrahimovic, you know, believing he's the greatest player in history, or the person who stands over a corner and says, I know exactly where I'm going to put that in the box. You've got to believe in your own ability. And I guess what I'd love to do is just share somebody's story that I think believes in themselves more than anybody I know. They do it in a very humble way, and they are regarded as the strongest mind in their sport. And that's the former England captain and all-time leading run scorer for England, Alistair Cook. 12,500 plus runs, leading England out as skipper, batting first, 32 centuries and 56 half centuries. The statistics are off the charts. The most consistent player in all continents in the world, and the leading run scorer in history with the left hand. So, you know, never did he say, oh, well, left hand, that gives me, you know, I'm playing left-handed, I'm at a disadvantage because people don't score as many runs with left hands. No, nothing knocked him. And his mental toughness was what truly set him apart. He knew what he was good at. He was said to himself, I'm only actually good at 3 shots. I'm not really good at driving. But if it comes into that area, oh, it's going for 4. And the learning for that is not trying too hard and not doing things that aren't our super strengths. And the other thing that made me smile about him was that philosophy of believing in himself, playing to his strengths, resulted in the fact that not only did he have the greatest results England cricket has ever seen, he weathered some storms, as we're all going to have in our career, and he was never, ever dropped in his time by England. He started his career with a century, he finished his career with a century, and he chose his career. But where his mental toughness came to its highest point was, he said the whole time that my greatest drive is, when I finish my career, is to have my own farm. And what was lovely about his story and I'm always hearing this third hand, is in a great way, he's always had a balanced perspective on his career. He hasn't put all of his eggs in one basket. If he's bowled out with the best delivery ever known, he wasn't turning to drink, drugs, or anything else. He was just going back to the fact of, I tried my best, I've gave it my all, fair play to the man who's bowled us out, and I'm going home to my farm. So I've got other things in my life. And one of my learnings in football was it's very important to have a balanced education, and certainly not dropping lessons and all of that to further yourself in football to stand that chance of making it. It's very important to have a balanced perspective with it.
And I guess from what you're saying, I guess experience is one of the greatest teachers, isn't it? So, the experiences that you gather. So as you touched on, because we all encounter failure, and it's how we choose to respond to that failure. And each of these opportunities is a chance to learn, I guess.
100%. There's one thing that springs straight to mind is when I was on trial at Norwich, I thought, this is crazy. How on earth am I in a Premier League club? I'm going to actually have to walk on fire to get asked back to a second trial. And we were about less than 10 minutes in to the first exercise. And Colin, who was our the manager of our year group, he'd said, as long as you guys can do this, you'll come back. And it was a really simple exercise. But what it was saying was, if you don't get the basics right, you won't come back. So there was me going, I'm going to have to do somersaults and I have to run quicker than Usain Bolt. I put all this pressure on myself. And yet, all they were wanting me to do was express myself and prove myself and be the very best version of myself. And that I wish I'd known 24 hours jumping on the train. That I wish I'd known at the start of my sort of career, as opposed to some of the other learnings you get going through your career. You'll never be the first person to be dropped. I remember being dropped for a game and I cried my eyes out in front of the lads. If I knew that really in reality every one of them had been dropped were part of a good squad, all of those things help, and put things into perspective.
And I guess that, as you say, it's putting it into context, isn't it? That you're not the only one that's going to be dropped. You're not the only one that's going to be injured. You're not the only one who's going to fail in a trial.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is not to take it personally. Take it as a learning experience. What was good that I can take into the next trial, but what potentially should I look to do differently? So I guess leading on from that.
Can I just say one other thing as well?
Yeah.
And it's above everything. Enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
And that is so over. It's such a cliche. It's such overly stated. But if you can, go to enjoy yourself. Because if you remember when you started football, it was to have some fun, probably to gain some fitness, and to knock about with your friends. So probably 3 Fs. And yet when you get to a club and it's, X factor, them on that side's going through, them on that side aren't, that's lost.
Yeah.
And the more you can relax yourself and enjoy yourself and express and allow your talents to shine, because I'm sure Picasso didn't paint really stressed. I'm sure Michael Jordan didn't take shots really stressed. There's a famous one about a basketball player in America who was paid by a famous drink company in America. And the thing was that he had to miss 6 shots. That was what he had to do. So the video was him missing shots, and then finally he drinks a bottle of pop and he puts the shot in. It took him 19 goes to miss a shot because he was that used to just putting them in and having fun.
Yeah.
So the saying is just try to have fun, and the best version of you will come out. And I saw that really recently with Ibrahimovic, where he took a young kid onto the pitch as a mascot, and the kid said, "I'm really nervous." And Ibrahimovic said, "Why are you nervous?" He said, "Think fun, believe you're going to have fun, you'll have fun." And the kid started smiling, and who might argue with a guy who's got just over mediocre talent in the wide scheme of things. He's not as good as Ronaldo and Messi, but he's certainly probably regarded as top 5 in our generation. And all he's ever had is fun.
Yeah, and self-belief. His self-belief is unwavering.
Yes.
So I guess the question that follows on from that then, so our children spend more time with us as parents than anybody else. How can we as parents provide that safety net and that safe environment to allow our children to thrive in these environments?
Yeah, I think there's three points. Is two that might be a little bit outside the box, but the first two are going to lead you to pain. So the first one is craving. So if you, as a parent, are craving, and I'm not trying to preach in any way, but if you as a parent are craving that end goal, you know, whether it's I've got to get home from work, driving like a lunatic to get home to see your child play because it's one step further to them making their debut for Chelsea 5 years from now. If everything you're doing is craving that, you're starting to get involved in a vicious cycle.
Right.
And if you're then becoming attached to that end result, then both the craving and the attachment is going to lead to pain. So all I would say with the first 2 points of three is just have a little check of, it's great to have an ambition that my child could go on and achieve that, but that's outside of your control.
Yeah.
So it's good to have a check on how much am I craving, how much am I attached to, because again, the reasons I took, or the reasons my father boys club was to have fun, get fit, and knock about with my friends. Let's not lose reality with what we got into the game for, and just take a reality check of, is this a little bit more than it should be in terms of my myopic vision now is about my son making his debut for a Premier League club. The third point, which is definitely inside your control, and please challenge me on that, Simon, if I'm wrong, but my third point is support, unconditional support.
Yeah.
And as Neil Lewis said on a previous show, that empathy is really, and we know that the statistics are low in terms of the amount of local heroes now in every single club. So I've ever done, I saw my father in the stand, it would be brilliant. But I had another friend whose father recorded him. You know, it was the laugh between the lads that this lad's dad, absolute little mistake he made. Polar opposites, and the poor lad had to go home and watch a video recording him. This was in the mid-90s after every game. I mean, that takes the fun out of it. And that's my initial message of just have a reality check. Have a reality check. And the best thing we can do is be there for our kids and help them unconditionally, because it's their journey, not yours. It's their successes, not yours. And it's allowing them to do it naturally. And what I would do is build on that slightly. So Jamie Redknapp had a question recently on Sky about, you know, should we be doing more for kids going into clubs? And I spoke to a friend of mine, an FA coach, on this, and for probably the first time in my career, he was in agreement with us. And I used to play for him. I was his captain. And he always used to say, I wish I didn't make you the captain because you're too vocal at half time. It's the first time we agreed on something. But what we agreed on was that when you get signed up for a club, it's an experience. Yeah. And it's an opportunity to learn loads. It's an opportunity to gain loads. It's an opportunity for an enhancement of life skills like I got through confidence and self-belief. It's an opportunity to travel. I took for granted going to Holland, Ireland, France, Germany. I took all them things for granted. They cost me thousands of pounds now if I did them in my adult life. Yet I didn't appreciate them as much as what I could. I didn't appreciate the friendships that were growing. And it's the biggest thing, to try to do the best you possibly can in the time that you're given and do the right thing. Always try to be your best and see how it goes. Because I think the problem comes is it's a filter of 20 kids signed for the under 16s, 20 kids signed for the under 17s, 20 kids signed for the under 18s. But after the under 18s, I'm making these numbers up slightly, probably only 5 get through. And then a little bit along from that, of every club, maybe 0.1 gets through.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of kids leave these clubs in a sort of similar way to millennials, in the sense of there's then a real fracture, and the foundation is truly broken. And then what do they build themselves back up with?
Yeah.
Where one or two of the guys, Rob Green is a prime candidate, the Norwich and former England goalkeeper, he had things going on behind him. He was very well educated. So again, it wasn't everything into one basket. And therefore, he was able to express himself rather than prove himself. And then his life didn't come crumbling down, should his career have came to an end at 18. And I have to know, Rob actually broke his back at 16. So, you know, his career should have been over. And 14 rather. And his career built back up to the heights of playing, I believe, in a World Cup. So, you know, it is that thing of having a balanced perspective and realizing there is no given right that you are going to have your contract renewed.
Mark, brilliant. So I guess just in closing then, if I and the people at home watching take one thing from this conversation, what would be sort of the golden nugget you'd leave us with?
I would say, I've got one in my mind, but I just want to make sure it's absolutely, yeah. I would say, go on the pitch the next time you play and try to love the game. Love what you do. Love every moment that you've got out of there. Because the more you do that, the more happier you'll become, the more relaxed you'll become. Because as we grow and potentially do roles and jobs we don't want to do as much as being a Premier League footballer, and who wouldn't want to be one? You look back and you think, maybe I didn't appreciate that time enough. Maybe I didn't turn up as much as I possibly could. Maybe I didn't get enough out of that game. Maybe I didn't appreciate the time I had with great friends. It would genuinely say is, as much as you possibly can, try, and we're in a great experience now of not being able to do it because of this pandemic. That's brought back to reality that, you know, Burnley Crystal Palace is now a cannot miss that on Sky Sports. 3 years ago, you would have thought there's no way I'm watching that. Love every moment you've got, because you know, you will enjoy that moment all the more. And you never know when you're going to be looking back like somebody like myself and wishing you could relive one of them games again. So love every moment would be the most genuine answer I can give. If you're laughing at me now, no problem, that's fine. But maybe just for a split second, when you walk out on that next page, just think about that for a second, because you've been given God-given talents. Enjoy using them.
I think that's great. I think that's a great way to finish the conversation. Mark, I knew it would be a great chat, and it absolutely was. Thank you for your time today, and I know we always catch up quite regularly. That we'll speak again soon. So thanks, mate. Really appreciated it.
Thanks, everyone. Bye now. Bye.
Cheers, Mark.